Welcome to Happy Times and Places, a Doctor Who commentary podcast which accentuates the positive and sees if I, Toby Hadoke, can guess what my special guest's favourite things about a particular story are.
Hello, I'm Ian McLachlan, and I have been a fan of Doctor Who since the 30th of November 1963, when I saw the repeat of An Unearthly Child. Now, the story I have chosen is the Dalek Masterplan.
Well, welcome. It's episode 2 of this epic trek I am taking with Ian K. McLachlan, veteran Doctor Who fan, whose voice you've just heard, introducing himself. He's one of the earliest fan names I ever read, and he's probably met more people from the dawn of the show than I could even count to be so envious about. You often hear his voice on, if you see a DVD extra where somebody like William Ems is being interviewed on stage, it's probably Ian doing the interviewing. So what a pathfinder. But let's see what he, and indeed what I, and maybe what you, make of episode 2. It's the Day of Armageddon. What a title. I'm on episode select on the Doctor Who Lost in Time DVD, still available from all good DVD shops. And I'm going to play, I'm going to press select in 3, 2, 1. Well, how exciting is this? I'll tell you how, because when I was a time topped, this was a missing episode, and this very disc that I am watching, I would have ordered anyway. I love an orphaned episode. I never quite understand people who say, I'd like episodes 1 and 4 of The Invasion back, or episode 3 of The Web of Fear before anything else, because they would complete a story. No, I would like a fragment of a story we have nothing of. And Masterplan would benefit from a couple more fragments, because it changed location, and I think we could do with some bits from later in the story. But this was really exciting when this returned, and this Lost in Time DVD set. It was the first time any of us had seen it. I think I was on the restoration team forum when I learnt of the return of the Day of Armageddon. It's gone now, but it was a place where you could dip in, and the restoration team, who were in charge of making these pictures beautiful and always had ears out for returned episodes and things. And broke news to fans that also had to deal with people being arseholes, and eventually decided not to do it anymore. The forum, that is. It's lovely seeing the Daleks outside the TARDIS. Actually, there's nothing more alarming of an image, so that must have been a great cliffhanger that I didn't talk about last week. Sorry. It's great to have some more Hartnell. It's great to have some more of this story, because this episode wasn't sold abroad. So the chances of us having anything of it, I didn't realise that as a kid. I thought the 12 episodes, you think one would turn up, but actually then when you investigate and discover that, nobody actually bought this because it was so distressing, the fact that we've had 3 episodes turn up in odd circumstances is very encouraging. It means anything could be out there. He's a very chipped Dalek, isn't he? He's a battle-scarred Scarosian, but they look great. I love the way that Mavis Chen writes with his pencil between his index and his pinky, his little finger. Everything Kevin Stoney does is glorious. This is a great entrance for Zephon as well. A lovely shooting. Look how far back he is in that set, and a sort of silhouetted. I mean, he's in a dark cloak anyway, but silhouetted to all intents and purposes in that doorway, which looks like a shaft of light, but it's not. It's just a ramp, but it's a beautiful piece of shooting. It just shows how much of a Douglas Camfield episode we're missing by its absence. There's a brave attempt. I like the way they both have a different greeting. Zephon sort of raises his hands skyward, and Mavis Chen does the hands clasped together. And I love the fact that we can't see Zephon's face, so just his lettuce hands give us an indication of what sort of a creature he might be. Oh, I just saw a member of the crew in the corner of the set. But Mavis Chen there pointing with his little finger. And I like that they say, you did. Zephon says, I did this thing, and he said, yeah, but not as much as Trantis. And I like the fact that they sort of invoke the different aliens that we have populating this conference, because I think it's the sort of thing that as a kid you maybe create backstories for all of the different ones, or your imagination about what these creatures are, and just having them mentioned in a sentence when they're off screen gives them a sort of life. And it is a disappointment, I think, that we don't get more of the delegates of the weird and wonderful creatures that make up this part of the story. That's not a complaint. I just love them. I don't think they ever quite fulfill their potential after their, tantalizing debut in Masterplan, and this is about as in Mission to the Unknown, and this is about as good as they get. I know some of them come back later, but this here at least we have the full contingent, bar obviously the changes that have been made since Mission to the Unknown, where the giant Christmas tree has vanished and Silliest has arrived. But we will see from the different ways that Zephon and Mavis Chen greeted each other that everyone has their own way of doing their hands, which is a brave attempt to try and differentiate them and say, well, we can do the embodiment gris. I love that as a name. And again, it gives a suggestion of outer politics of other machinations of so often when it's a great shot close up of Mavis Chen here, and Kevin Stone is. Facial performance is has so many fleeting subtleties, but yes, the suggestion that in a series where often a planet can be represented by 20 people, and literally it's kind of these 20 people are every opinion on the planet, or sometimes, I'm being optimistic, sometimes it's two. That the idea that the different galaxies have factions, and Zephon can't say that he speaks for a particular thing because of this other thing, and that suggests a bigger galaxy or universe or whatever you want it to be. That black Dalek looks absolutely magnificent. Just all a little paint job can do. Stephen rocking a corduroy jacket there, and the first sort of proper footage we have of Katarina. I know she's in that clip, but in episode 4 that survives, but she doesn't get to do much because she's got a hand clasped over her mouth. She's a funny little thing, isn't she? She's a slightly sort of strange and slightly beguiling presence. I know some people were quite, didn't think she was up to much. I think she's quite sweet, and as I say, a little bit like she's a little bit detached from the whole thing, because she is this sort of Trojan handmaiden, sort of ripped out of time. It's odd though, the whole Katarina thing. She joins at the end of the last story, having played no part in it really, apart from to rescue Stephen, and is dead before she's out of the crib in televisual terms. Very odd, but anyway, it helps to give this adventure that she is. Yes, it is a strange performance, but I quite like it. And I like the way that William Hartnell's Doctor is with her. He's very, slightly paternalistic, which I know is, means slightly different things these days. But here he's sort of comforting, and he is, especially as a Doctor, can be quite sort of crotchety and cross. Although I don't think Hartnell's Doctor is ever as crotchety and cross as the character of Legend. As well, I know he gets stroppy sometimes, but. He's slightly, I suppose he's impatient, but he's not unpleasant. Handsome, lovely Nicholas Courtney as Brett Vion. Is he the James Bond of outer space, or is Mark Corey, or are they both? Who cares? They're both square-jawed heroes played by lovely actors. And we had this. Here we are suddenly on film. Gosh, this is really good quality on film, and you can see the shadow on the backdrop of the ferns there, but these pyro flames are superb, and we had this for a bit, and this was it was almost a shame an episode turned up that we'd already got bits of, but not really. But yeah, I remember when I first saw this clip on Daleks the early years, I was quite impressed with how long a clip it was, And this is great. This is just an extra bit of, and I think, if you're a kid, again, that you live with the suckers, you don't mind them, and that's good use of lighting there because Brett's back in the studio. But to have different editions and to have flames, I mean, it's a big deal. That's why they have to do it on film. But it's a lovely sequence, and yeah, the fact that Stephen is injured again helps to add to this kind of, the stakes are high when they're on the run. It's not quite like the chase where time is against them, but here it seems that with people able to die and get injured and all of this sort of thing, and we know we lose people, it just seems more adult in a way, or grimmer, and that's what I kind of like. But I also, Doctor Who must never lose its sense of breathtakingly exciting adventure and fun. But I think when it decides to do grim in the way that it balances the stuff here, because there's enough humour in Hartnell and in Kevin Stoney actually particularly, that it's it's not dour. It's that's a great that's the great action from Brett Vian, and Hartnell betters him. Well, the Doctor actually gets the better of Brett, but it's not the moment it should be, because Hartnell slightly fluffs the line, but he maintains his composure, and it's good to see the Doctor giving as good as he gets. But if the Daleks are doing something they shouldn't be doing, again, this fire is absolutely marvellous. It looks terrific, and the wonderful sounds, the strange alien shapes. This is really transporting me into strange new worlds territory, and I love it. And it's actually quite unusual for Doctor Who, which is often set in the past or in the present. Alien worlds are interiors, corridors, complexes or whatever, having a sort of alien shaped and sound jungle, and then making it good enough that you can burn it down in close up, I think is lovely. This feels like a proper big adventure. But yes, this is like a kind of war film, really, isn't it? It's a commando unit on the run, having to blow. It's like the sort of Guns of Navarone or something like that, but in a BBC studio, and instead of what a base or a dam or a place in the Alps, a castle full of Nazis. There's a base down there with the Daleks and their strange bunch of allies. Nicholas Courtney is already having to do his slightly baffled with the Doctor, but I'll go along with it stuff, which he of course perfects later. But I think he's great as this ruggedly handsome space guy. The lighting here is absolutely stunning, suggesting the flame playing on the lips. There's the sort of air of purred, quiet amusement that Kevin Stoney has is glorious, he never fails to give us the sense that this is an overweening arrogance that Mavis Chen has, but he does it without making the character over the top, and I think that is glorious. And you like him, and it's a curious makeup he has, isn't it? And I suppose we have to be slightly uneasy that I can just see his spar out. That's a photo of the spar in there. I hadn't noticed that before. It's the good quality of this, and I'm watching on a bigger screen than normal. And he does brilliant stuff here, Kevin Stoney, when he uses the set and sort of plays with it like it's a jail cell that's keeping him prisoner. And then he does that little look. Oh, he is so good. And whereas Zephon is flagging himself for extermination by being the biggest prick in the galaxy. Yeah, I'll keep waiting. So Mavis Chen makes us. I'm sure we'll be able to talk about. But I have to acknowledge that. There's. Do you know what? It didn't occur to me when I was a kid that Mavis Chen might be might have a suggestion that he's there's an element of a Caucasian actor playing an Oriental character. Because I didn't see Chen. I understand, obviously, it's obvious where the provenance of Chen is suggested to come from now, but when there's people called Zephon and Vion, and I just thought Chen was just another name, really. And yeah, obviously I think we feel slightly uneasy about suggestions of yellowface and all of that these days, and rightly so. But it should not distract us from the fact that that's not Kevin Stoney's fault, or indeed 1965's fault, and that he's doing a fantastic job of the character. And in going roundabout in order to try to not cause offence with my phraseology whilst addressing a thorny subject, I missed the different entrance walks of the aliens, which again are there's Zephon's feet, because I'd seen a picture of Zephon quite early on, a picture that I then never saw printed for ages and ages and ages, but it's in one of the early Doctor Who magazines, and then and it's odd because we don't have any other photos from this episode, do we? So, but they got one of Zephon. They don't get but there isn't one of any of the other aliens, bizarrely. And it just seemed a bit odd that they didn't do a photo shoot for the vast array of delegates that are in Daleks Masterplan, which is why we don't have proper photos of. I know we've got a couple of set photos where Trantis and Salation are in the background, but we don't have this one's version of Malfa, because even though we've got moving footage here, it's not the Malfa that we see later on, because this is an extra. This is Roy Evans playing Trantis, but he wasn't that character in Mission to the Unknown, and I think it's Brian Edwards, isn't it, and Ian East as Malfa and Salation. They don't play those characters later because they're non-speaking in this, so you have an extra. So all of these other ones are extras. Including this strangely feminine one who's not in Mission to the Unknown, the sort of Lady Gimp, and then there's the other one that's the astronaut that in Mission to the Unknown is a black actor, Sam Mansaray, whereas here we can't actually see the actor's face. But we don't actually have photos of them from later on in the story when a couple of them are speaking actors. So, they will look slightly different because they're played by different actors. Ian East is replaced by Terence Woodfield, who had been in The Ark. And I think they both died on the same day a couple of years ago. I remember I punched them together in my In Memoriam video, which is a strange coincidence. And Ian East went on to have, decent acting career, speaking parts from The Bill and various bits and bobs. But he's non-speaking in this, as the bald Salation. But yes, but odd that they didn't take photos of the aliens, proper photos. We have later Salation. We have Terence Woodfield Salation and Roy Evans as Trantis in the background of a set photo, but we don't have Alf Roberts as Malfa, Alf Roberts from Coronation Street, Brian Moseley. Have I missed there's a line reading that Nick Courtney gives in this. I think it might be earlier where he says he's supposed to say something like, "Who cares about history?" And he does it as a kind of philosophical, who cares about history? Whereas I think on the paper it's more of a sort of tough guy nation chewing a cud, phlegmy, spitty, who cares about history? I'm a tough guy. But Nick Courtney can't help but inject a little bit of the philosophical into his hard-bitten exterior, which I think makes him such an enjoyable performer. Although, which is why I would never quite cast him as the toughest of tough guys, although actually he's great in Inferno, so perhaps he had to really dig deep for that. So yes, of course, the Doctor is disguised as Zephon, even though all they had to do is look at his bare seaweed feet. But it's great that he's doing this disguise, and it means that because he's got Zephon's cloak on, we do get to see Zephon's face before we lose the moving pictures once again. But Julian Sherrier, interesting, talking about actors, blacking up or whatever. Often Elroy Josephs as Jamaica. Well, he's referred to as the first black actor in Doctor Who, but actually the first black speaking part for a credited actor is Dwight Wiley in the War Machines, because he's playing himself as a radio announcer. But there are black extras, and Sam Mansaray probably has a line in Mission to the Unknown because they all say agreed. So he could count if you want to. I never like things when somebody asks a thing as how many actors did this or who's the first actor to do that, when people don't do credited actors, because that just muddies the water. You're talking about extras, and I think for sort of statistics and things like that, you have to draw the line with actors who are playing a credited part and actors who are hired, because extras are hired under different circumstances and all of that sort of thing. So sometimes people will ask me a thing online, and I'll, which actors did this? And you go, blah, blah, blah. And somebody goes, aren't you forgetting, blah, 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 who played an uncredited thing? No, I'm not forgetting. I'm just drawing a line. But thanks for trying to outwit me when I'm helping somebody in my spare time. Oh, I'm not bitter. I'm not. I just find it slightly irritating, and I'm allowed to say so. I love the blackness of the Daleks. The Daleks are such a cracking design. But Julian Sherrier, yes, who plays Zephon, was of Indian origin, they all have different ways of. Again, this is Douglas Camfield sort of being. Oh, and I like the fade between the two tables. They all hold their hands in a different way, or they bang their table in a slightly different way, so that each alien has a different movement. Nowadays, we've got choreographers sorting out all of that sort of thing. But then it's just like, right, you hold two fingers in that way, you put one hand forward, you slightly waft yours. And I think that looks slightly hokey to modern eyes. I think the fact that they all walk in a certain way, because maybe partially because they aren't, there's no intense choreography that's gone on either. But I think it's a laudable attempt to make everybody a little bit different. Kevin Stoney has such a tack and such authority, and look at Roy Evans' spiky teeth. Roy is still going strong. I got a letter from him last year or so. He's in his 90s now, and he's also he's Bert the Miner in Green Death, and he's another miner in Monster of Peladon. Gives good miner. Well, I suppose he could be a bit like a mole with those teeth as Trantis. Ronald Rich is Trantis in Mission to the Unknown, but Ronald Rich is a very tall actor. He's Gunnar the Giant in The Time Meddler. So the one who has a similar costume to Roy Evans in Mission to the Unknown, therefore isn't Trantis. So the names and the costumes, there's no continuity between, or there's muddled continuity between Mission to the Unknown and Daleks Masterplan. The delegates are a source of great debate and research. Jack Rayner is the person to seek her blog, where she proffers the evidence. Of course, these are the techniques, aren't they? Where basically get a load of bald guys. Again, how can we make all the technicians slightly distinctive? Let's get a load of bald actors, or let's shave some actors' heads. And I know there's publicity photos of somebody having their hair cut, isn't there? And a few publicity photos of Hartnell and the bald men, but not of Hartnell and the aliens. I suspect those the ones of Hartnell and the bald men were maybe from episode 1, and the photographer wasn't. But who took the photo of Mavis Chen and Zephon? Was that from episode 3? I don't think it was. Must be from here. So therefore, why are there none of the other aliens? But at least we have this now, which means we have a very intriguing alien-filled episode. Camfield's use of close-ups is excellent. That camera pan along is really, really good. The Doctor's proactive. He's disguised himself as this. I think slightly dulls the luster of the delegates, having them run about a bit confusingly and confusedly. But the scene needs the mayhem. I just don't think it does them any favours. And especially poor old Zephon now, sort of toddling in. But we do get to see his face. And the moving pictures are about to end. She is. You're the strange being, love. And Purvis is great at the heroic stuff, and Courtney's, the camera's having to stay on Courtney while he's just sort of doing his business, and he carries it off well. And then here we go. He's pressing all the buttons possible to take off. Next episode, Devil's Planet. We can't see it, but look at that. That's the end of episode 2. The Day of Armageddon. So exciting when that turned up. This was the first thing I watched when I got the Lost in Time DVD that I'm watching it on now. And presumably the next time I watch it, will be on some sort of season 3 Blu-ray. Or maybe I'll watch, I don't know, at the speed they're coming out. There's not one on the cards as far as I know. It's a while since I've seen this. So look, it's probably as long ago. I consider this one of the more recent discoveries as well. But of course, there's been quite a few since. What's my... I think I'm gonna have to invoke Mavis Chen sooner rather than later, just because if I do it before Ian, I still get the points if Ian does it a bit later. So if I choose something before Ian chooses it, I get the point. That's only fair, because if he chooses something, I can never choose it in subsequent episodes. So I think I'm going to play this Joker early. Well, it's not a Joker. It's just that somebody's bound to... Ian is bound to choose Mavis Chen at some point. And I'm not cheating. He's so good in that. I love the alien delegates. I love that shot of Zephon and that brilliant set. And the lighting. The lighting was superb in that episode. But I think I've got to take Chen for all those lovely deft little things that Kevin Stoney does. So Mavis Chen and Kevin Stoney, because I know that Ian will choose that character and that actor sooner rather than later. So where are we with episode 2? Ian, what you got for me? So Ian, on episode 2, what's his thing?
Then episode 2, Day of Armageddon. I particularly like the scene in that episode, which thankfully survives, when the delegates go down the ramp one by one. And you see all these aliens. Now, we saw some of the aliens before in Mission to the Unknown, but in this episode, you see more of them. And what's particularly interesting is the music, the eerie music, which is played. Now, music has always played a big part in Doctor Who. I think when the Radiophonic Workshop took over using the incidental music in the early John Nathan Turner era, it was good. But I think that the early episodes had very eerie and spooky music, and that really added to the program. So the second episode, Day of Armageddon, I would say the delegates coming down the ramp and the eerie music.
Yeah, it is a brilliant scene, and I was getting tongue-tied, sort of acknowledging the fact that Kevin Stoney's makeup and the conception of Chen may be awkward to a 21st century audience, which just goes to show... I don't know what it goes to show, but I got distracted. I suppose it's important to point that stuff out. Although, is it? Because I trust your intelligence, and I know you probably know that. But I'm sort of programmed to do it, which isn't a bad thing, I suppose. But I'd have had more fun talking about the funny aliens and the lovely music. But there we go. Well, look, that was episode 2, and I was close to choosing the aliens. If I'd chosen the aliens, would I have been allowed that? Well, he did specify the music as well, so maybe I wouldn't have been allowed that anyway. But I still think I sort of narrowly missed out on a point there. But if he chooses Mavis Chen later, I think I'm going to get a point, but I also lose a point, because if he chooses Mavis Chen in, say, episode 6, well, whatever I choose for episode 6, I'm not going to get a point for. I'm only going to get a retrospective point. It's very confusing, isn't it? Anyway, we'll take a trip to the Devil's Planet next time, and the pictures have stopped moving again. But what a thrill that we can see the day of Armageddon. And now it's the night of Toby Hadoke, as in the night. And I will speak to you next time. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Hadoke, and my special guest, Ian K. McLachlan. These commentaries would be impossible without the support of patrons, who include Ruben Herfindahl, Peter Burns, Peter Harness, Rob Leonard, Stephen Moffat, Richard Straw, Nick Tedston, David Anonymous, Jenny at Bluebox99, Paul Carrington, Paul Cook, Peter Crocker, Rob Dawson, John Deere, Chris Dunford-Kelk, Chris Phone, Jason Gorman, Siobhan Galichon, Ian Key, Joe Llewellyn, Darren Mackay, Barry Platt, Luke Atkins, Peter Adamson, Will Brooks, Rick Byatt, Robin Bland, Alex Kafejoglu, and everyone else who I will mention at another time. The music was by Dave Gates, and the podcast artwork is by Dylan Patterson. Well, listen up. If you would like to be among their number, those names I just read out, you can go to patreon.com/Toby Hadoke and sign up for as little as £3 a month. And there's even a 10% discount on top of that if you sign up for a year in advance. There are advance releases, there are patron exclusives and bonus material and all sorts of other little goodies. If you can't commit to the monthly thing, there's Ko-fi, where if you're feeling bounteous or I'm sounding particularly malnourished, you can throw some metaphorical coffee in my direction of whatever denomination you choose. That's at ko-fi.com/Toby Hadoke. But I know times are tough, and listen, I'm just grateful that you download and hopefully enjoy this stuff. But do you know what? If you want to spread the word, that costs you absolutely nothing. Go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and give these a 5-star review. They really help, 5-star reviews, to get us to the top of the algorithm charts, and leave a couple of lines of review as well, just to make me appealing to any passing trade. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Toby Hadoke, these podcasts at Hadoke Podcasts, and my comedy club XS Malarkey at XS, the letter X, the letter S, Malarkey. That comedy club is in Manchester every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and it's online at twitch.tv/XS Malarkey on the first Sunday of every month. Although if you go there now, there's an archive and highlights of previous shows. Now then, eagle-eared listeners who stay to the bitter end, I've tried something a bit different with this one. I'm not in my booth currently. I'm watching the birds, fly in unison to the rather empty bird feeder, so I need to fill that. But also, I've got a dog who's chewing the carpet and the washing machine in the background. Can you hear those things? Is it worth me retiring to the booth and unplugging bits and bobs and stuff? Or is actually this one sound just the same as all of the others, and therefore I've been wasting my time to give you the most pleasant listening experience that you can, whilst not retaking the word pleasant when I pronounce it pleasant, as I just did, for fear of you hearing the fact that, yes, I, like other mortals, have to do the washing occasionally and have a washing machine. So, yeah, well, I hope you've enjoyed experiencing, or not, my washing machine. This is the stuff you hang around till the end for.